Imagine getting a sugar daddy like your peers, only to end up being used for rituals. Well, that's Evelyn's story. Evelyn Johnson was the kind of woman people didn't just notice, they remembered. She was tall, graceful in every step, and beautiful in a way that made strangers pause and stare. She had smooth, fair skin that seemed to glow. Her brows were perfectly shaped, her full pink lips curved into a smile that could melt ice. But beauty was not her only weapon. Evelyn was smart. I mean, street smart. She knew the effect she had on people and she knew how to use it. But Evelyn Johnson was just the name Lagos called her. Her real name was Ese Osawero, and unlike the women she worked with in the city's polished towers, her life did not begin with silk sheets and chandeliers. She was the only child of a widow, raised in a modest home in Benin. Her mother, a petty trader, had fought with teeth and blood to send Ese to school. Life had stripped the woman of comfort and companionship, but she refused to let it strip her daughter of opportunities. When Essie finally graduated and secured a banking job in Lagos, her mother's joy was unrestrained. Yet, joy was not her only sentiment. Fear followed closely. Lagos was a city of masks and shadows, she told her daughter, and beauty was both a gift and a curse. Before Essie left, her mother took her to a small mud walled shrine at the edge of their village where an old priestess with cloudy eyes and strange white chalk markings on her face sat waiting. The priestess studied Essay for a long moment, then reached for a beaded strand, thick and red as dried blood. This waist bead is fortified, she whispered. It is your shield. As long as you wear it, no evil will harm you. Essay had not taken it off since that day. It was both an ornament and armor, glimmering beneath her clothes, hidden from the world but close enough to her flesh to remind her of her mother's warning. In Lagos, not every hand that feeds you means you well. When she arrived Lagos, Essie quickly realized that her mother's sacrifices had not raised an ordinary daughter. She was beautiful, intelligent, smart, and fiercely ambitious. But she also carried a conviction. Poverty was not her portion. In school, she had mocked broke boys who tried to woo her, saying they could never afford the kind of life she envisioned. In Lagos, nothing changed. She lived above her means, her wardrobe stacked with imported clothes, her hair always freshly done, her phone filled with the names of men whose wealth overflowed into her account. Her job at the bank came with crushing targets. Every month, she had to bring in clients, and not just any clients, wealthy clients who could open accounts with millions. Some of her colleagues struggled, begging family and friends to deposit small sums to make quota. Essay was different. She had long ago realized that her body was both a key and a lockpick. She lured rich men, promising companionship, stroking their egos, and sealing deals in private hotel rooms. They opened accounts with millions and also funded her lifestyle. Her managers adored her results. They never asked questions about her methods. It became her rhythm. Smooth talk a client at the office, entertain him at night, reap the benefits in the morning. She had men who bought her designer bags, cars, even paid her rent in a luxurious apartment on the island. To the world, she was the model banker, diligent, charismatic, successful. To herself, she was untouchable, shielded by beauty, calculation, and the fortified waist bead that never left her skin. Until the day she met Chief Donatus. It was on a Thursday afternoon. Essie was at her desk, scrolling through her phone, when the heavy, deliberate footsteps echoed in the banking hall. The murmurs that followed carried his name before he even appeared. Chief Donatus. He was massive in stature, his agbada spreading wide like a small tent. Gold chains glistened across his chest, thick rings weighed down his fingers, and his wristwatch alone could have purchased the plot of land. His eyes were small, yet piercing, and when he smiled, his lips barely lifted, as if hiding secrets. The air around him seemed thicker, heavier, as though it bent toward him in silent obeisance. Whispers clung to him like perfume. Some said he was into oil and gas, some said he was into politics, and still others whispered of things darker, ritual dealings and wealth born of sacrifices. But in Lagos, money silenced suspicion. Ace's manager assigned her to him instantly. She rose to her feet, her lips curving into a professional smile. Their eyes met, and she felt something cold brush against her chest, a sensation she dismissed as nerves. Good afternoon, sir, she said. Ah, Chief's deep voice rolled slowly, his gaze sweeping over her, lingering too long. Fine girl like you. This Lagos is truly blessed. She tilted her head and laughed softly, just as she always did when the game began. Thank you, sir. Please, let's sit. I'll show you what we have to offer. The meeting was straightforward, but his eyes never left her. He even slipped in compliments between her explanations, and each time she answered with laughter, subtle touches, and practiced charm. By the end, he opened an account with a staggering sum. That evening, he called her. Evelyn, dress well. I'm taking you out. To her, it was not unusual. She had dined with senators, governors, business tycoons, and even foreign investors, so she thought nothing of it. What she did not know was that in her eagerness to prepare, she had stepped into her bathroom, slipped out of her clothes, and for the first time since her mother tied it on her waist, she removed the bead. She wanted her dress to sit perfectly on her figure, unbothered by the bulge beneath the fabric. In her excitement, she forgot to put it back on. That mistake would cost her everything. The night unfolded like a dream. They dined in one of the most exclusive restaurants in Victoria Island. Chief ordered champagne without looking at the prices. He presented her with a gold necklace, and by the time the night ended, they were in a luxury hotel suite together. Essa woke the next morning wrapped in silk sheets with a thick envelope stacked with cash on the nightstand. She left with a very bright smile, not knowing it would be the last time she smiled without pain. After that night, Chief didn't call again. She sent him messages, but they were met with cold silence. Essa wasn't bothered. Men like him often disappeared and reappeared without warning. She assumed his wife was suspicious. Life went on until the pains began. It started as a dull ache in her lower stomach. She ignored the pain, thinking it was cramps. By the third day, the pain grew sharper, like something alive was eating her stomach from the inside. One night, unable to bear it, she rushed to the bathroom, as lowered herself onto the toilet bowl, hoping relief would come. But when she looked down into the bowl, her heart sank. The clear water rippled with movement, small, white maggots writhing, floating to the surface, and they were coming from her private part. Her scream tore through the night, so loud her neighbor came knocking, but she couldn't open the door. Her hands were shaking too much that she couldn't turn the door handle. When she could finally speak, she called Amaka, her closest friend, another Lagos big girl who understood the life. Amaka, something is happening to me. Esse's voice trembled through the phone. When Amaka arrived and heard what had happened, she went pale. Without wasting time, they drove to the nearest hospital. The doctor examined her, his expression twisting in confusion and disbelief. The smell from Ace's body filled the hospital ward, thick and rotten, making the nurses cover their noses. I've never seen anything like this, the doctor said quietly. We need to transfer her. But at the second hospital, the story was the same. Tests showed nothing, treatments did nothing. Every day, the maggots returned. Amaka began to hear whispers. A nurse said she had seen this before. in a case involving a certain wealthy man. A woman in the waiting room pulled Amaka aside and told her to pray for her friend because this one is not ordinary. But the truth about Chief Donatus was darker than anyone imagined. Years ago, he had been a struggling trader, mocked by his peers, drowning in debt. Then, one rainy night, on his way home, he met an old man who told him of an ancient river deity. Desperate, Chief listened. The covenant was simple. Every 3 months, he would find a young, beautiful woman, spoil her with gifts, sleep with her, and offer her womb to the deity. The offering would come in the form of maggots, the deity's servants, who would feast on her womb until she withered away. In return, Chief's wealth would grow endlessly. Essie had been chosen. Within weeks, her body changed beyond recognition. Her beauty dimmed quickly. Her once glowing skin became dull and cracked. Her body began to dry up. Her hips shrank. Her eyes sank into hollow sockets. She could no longer walk without Amaka's support. When modern medicine failed, Amaka took her back to her village, to her mother. The sight broke the widow. She wept as she held her child's fragile body, calling on the priestess, herbalists, prophets, and clerics. Potions were brewed, holy oils poured, incantations chanted. But the waist bead, the one shield that could have stopped it, sat forgotten in a drawer back in Lagos. The covenant was older, darker, and unbreakable. One night, as rain pattered on the tin roof, Ese lay struggling for breath, her lips cracked, her voice a faint whisper. She turned to Amaka, her eyes brimming with pain and regret. If I knew, I would never have followed him. Those were her last words. By morning, she was gone. They buried her quietly behind her mother's house. The village mourned. Her mother's wails echoed through the trees. In Lagos, life went on. Chief Donatus invested in new hotels and properties. His wealth grew more. His name whispered with both awe and fear. And in smoky lounges and champagne soaked clubs of Lagos nightlife, Esse's story became a warning passed from one glittering girl to another. Some gifts are not gifts, some men are not just men, and some wealth comes with a price you can never afford to